Good point.
Countdown. We live? Getting some thumbs up from back there. Good morning, DragonCon Digital Media Track. Welcome to Worlds Collide, building synergies between your personal and professional brand. My name is Kevin Cafferty. I am a DJ, podcaster. In the professional world, I work in branding and creative. And I am joined to discuss personal and professional branding by the wonderful panelists here. We are going to be joined a little later, possibly by a fourth panelist, Dana Morgan, but she is currently interviewing John Boyega, so she's going to come after that in the middle of it. Talk about...
I'm going to have to touch her as soon as she gets here. I'm just telling you.
Talk about synergizing personal and professional. But to begin, I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. Tyra, please tell the nice people in the room and on the stream who you are and what you do.
And don't forget, we got a replay coming up on YouTube. My name is Tyra Burton. I am a professor of marketing at Kennesaw State University. I teach digital marketing, social media, and now honors students. And I also write about social media, and I do a podcast with Charles McFall, our track director, called Be Awesome Together.
Fantastic. James.
I'm Jim Nettles. I do way too much. I write science fiction, fantasy, horror, contemporary, a bunch of stuff. I also do a lot of nonfiction. Mythology, business, technology, data security, privacy. I've written a number of business books. This one happens to be Business for Authors. I am one of the founders of the Continual Convention online. We started it at the beginning of the C word, and we've done a couple of thousand shows since then across a bunch of tracks. Professionally, I do a lot of business and technology consulting work. About 60% of my life is somewhere in fintech and fun stuff there. About a third of my life is in entertainment and media, and the other 10% is just yes. I am a partner in a company called Myriad Technology Group, where we have a number of things underneath the company. We've got a game company. We have a events management and technology company. If we get to that point, I can bring up, I can talk a little bit about some of that. We actually have a digital marketing agency as a part of it that my partner owns, a few other things as well. And yeah, there's probably other stuff I'm missing this morning, but it's early.
Fair enough. Rilo, over on the end of the table.
Hi, I'm Ryla Ward. I am a semi-unemployed technology repair tech. I work on computers, phones, game consoles, etc. And a newly started digital media student at Kirkwood Community College in Iowa. And I have a podcast called Guild Calamitous Podcast, where we do an episode-by-episode rewatch of The Venture Brothers. And the podcast within the podcast needs more grenadine, where we get to talk to creatives, voice actors. I actually got to talk to the creators of the show and interview them and pick their brains about various things.
That is awesome. Now to get into it, Tyra, what does personal branding mean to you, and how do you think that's different or the same as a professional brand?
Oh, I never really thought about. So define professional brand for me.
I'm wondering. I think I thought about doing this session from a conversation I think we had. I was thinking about how in my DragonCon space, I do a lot of DJing and I do a lot of talking about video games and weird old cartoons and Spider-Man and stuff like that. But in the working world, I'm more talking about ways that brands can define themselves to audiences. And I was curious, how you think of how you're branding yourself versus how, you work for a university, how you're branding the university.
I'm a horrible human being, and I have the same brand wherever you find me. And I made a choice in that because I knew, being public facing in my job, that having a separate kind of personality on the side unless I changed my name was going to be really super difficult. So I do think about Kennesaw State when I say their name, because obviously they're going to associate with me. And it does sometimes dictate a little bit more about what I have to do as Tyra Burton and what I can't do as Tyra Burton. So for me, that's kind of where those lines go. And personal brand is something that you build up over time, I think, but you can be very intentional about it and intentional about what side of yourself you show the universe. So who you see as Tyra Burton online is very authentic, but there's a lot of Tyra Burton you don't see, and I do take that into my life at Kennesaw, I would say.
James, how about you?
So, and I guess because I've been in this a long time, it used to be you had to be a lot more separate. Like, I have written under a lot of different pen names for different things, right? Now, part of that is because I don't necessarily want or need to mix in certain genres or certain things, because I don't necessarily need to be the same identity that's writing, no murder mysteries that is talking about data security. Yeah, that's the book that gets me gnomes sent to me from all over the world.
That is awesome.
Nobody's business. It's a murder mystery because somebody's killing gnomes and turning them into garden statues.
What?
I'm writing it down.
I've got a couple of copies. Be nice and we'll make something happen.
Okay.
But
Yes.
so, and over time, because for some odd reason, if you're running multi-million-dollar projects, you're working, because I do everything from startup to Fortune 50, and I've done work unicorn companies and things like this. They don't necessarily, especially in the old days with very conservative fintech industries, necessarily want the same person who does that to also be running their projects in the same identity, and especially if you're having to have security clearances, things like that. And so I used to segment that much more, even though I've done a lot of media, and you will find me under a lot of names across a lot of different media. But now, one of the things I think that is good and much better is because I think we're seeing a lot of businesses embrace more of the bring your whole self to work, not your whole self if you're writing spicy romance. Though I have friends that do that, right? But you don't necessarily need all of that persona
No.
when you're doing certain things. But I think because I have long taught workshops around the notion that I think creativity is important to the whole person, including personally and professionally. So to me, it's very much about professional is different depending on what the environment you're in. If I'm working with clients doing things like this, or I'm here at DragonCon, I'm still the same smartass.
That is true. I can vouch for that. I mean that in a loving way. We've known each other a long time.
Personal brand, smartass.
Look, my team will tell you my brand is my love language is snark. It's that Gen X, cranky thing that I do. But I will be my accidental brand became running around in a kilt, because I do Scottish heavy athletics. I'm an athletics judge. I spend probably 100 and something days a year kilted. I'm comfortable in it. I'm fine. I'm happy. And it became an accidental brand. So as we talk about that notion of identity, God, I'm going on.
No, it's fine.
You're self-aware. That's awesome.
But that became an accidental brand. But I will wear the same thing on a stage at a technology conference or a business conference, just probably a better shirt and a different, cleaner kilt. Than necessarily the same one I'm walking around in the Marriott in, where I know I'm going to get a drink spilled on me. But that professionalism is what I always advocate, is bring the best self that is going to tell people who you are, what you do, and build that level of trust. Because at the end of the day, all professionalism is about, and reputation is building trust. And over the years, I've been very fortunate in that a lot of people are brought to me, right? Here at DragonCon, here at a lot of the conventions that I do and things like that. And that is because it takes time to build that reputation. It doesn't take long to destroy one. That's a whole different topic.
Rilo, I'm curious, you had mentioned, I think before the panel too, that you're going to school for digital media, partly through your work here with DragonCon's digital media track, and I'm wondering, is this something you're thinking about as you embark on a digital media career?
It's something I'm considering, but I mean, when I started my podcast, I came up with the byline Rilo Ward. It was sort of thrust upon me by someone else, and then I stuck with it. But Rilo and then my personal self, Riley, sort of just became one and the same, and there's really no differentiating between them now. And a lot of that is I want to live authentically. I mean, as a trans man, I worked a really long time to live my authentic self, so I don't want to hide that. So, like, thinking ahead, I want, on face value, people to know what they're getting, and what they're getting is me. So
That's a really good perspective, I think. Tyra, I am curious, do you have a moment when your personal passions helped in your professional life? And if you could give an example of like when or how that.
I'm on point now. I'm
Yeah.
a little awake. My vitamin water is kicking in.
It's early, it's Sunday morning at DragonCon. I think we all are
Trying to find our brains.
operating at 80%.
I hope for 80. So actually, the whole field that I teach in, and our whole department, I was the one who said we need to teach social media and we need to teach digital marketing. And we were the first college in the university system to have a social media class, because I was actively doing that as Tyra Burton, the podcaster, Tyra Burton, the blogger. And over time, that has opened up so many doors for me within my day job. I host Building Bold Connections, which is the Coles College podcast. The reason I do that is because they know I'm a podcaster. They know that I already know what I'm doing, that they made me comfortable on camera. I will say that I had not been on camera before that. But they knew that I had that skill set already and that I could help the college with that skill set. So for me, being open and honest about what I do has made it easier for me to excel at work and excel at the side hustle of Tyra Burton. So 100%, and I'm lucky in that regards, I would say. I'm also lucky that, like Rilo, I try to be authentic. My students know who I am. I have pink hair here and I have pink hair at the day job. So you have to know your lines, but absolutely it's helped me a lot.
Jim,
Go ahead. No,
I was gonna ask you partly about that and partly about doing things like cons like this.
So I've been doing these kinds of conventions pretty hard for about the last, 12, 13 years. And I mean, I was doing them before that, but I mean, I've been doing a lot of them for about the last 12, 13 years. And the first time I was ever on camera, the first time I was ever presenting in public was as a part of a performance when I was 12 in front of 10,000 people. I can tell you, I cannot sing, I cannot dance, I do not have a lick of rhythm, so I got to be whoever this is. However, as you can tell from the way I'm dressed, I'm very subtle, shy, quiet, and reserved. And with that notion,
Oh, you funny man.
I am the shy, quiet one in my family, if that makes you feel better.
I don't know if better is the word I would use. Frightened is the word I would use.
That's probably a better. But anyway, when I look at things from the notion of who I am professionally, right? I scale it up and down, and the way that a lot of the time things come out and they affect me are because, again, when I took on a gig I'm currently in, one of the first things I went and said was, look, there's some understandings we have to have because I own a lot of intellectual property. I create a lot of intellectual property. I am, at least in some degree, a minor public figure. I do a lot of these things. So in doing conventions And the things that I've been able to do, it's not just about showing up selling books and talking about books. You know, I'll be doing the Side Hustles workshop here at 1 o'clock. You know, but I talk about a lot of intellectual property and all these different things. So if you look at even just like the number of tracks I do here at Dragon, I'm all over the place. And it's the same thing with consulting I do. So I've got to get down to fundamentally anchoring who I am first, right? What's my identity? My identity is smartass. But my identity is also that notion of what's the topic of the conversation and how high am I on the slider back and forth? Because there are things I take very seriously, right? And it's coming in and being able to do those things professionally. And so how that works for me is really about long-term experience of being able to grade it up and down. And so like doing the cons and doing things like this, there's a lot of people I know, I have a lot of friends that still do not understand this at all. They have no awareness, no real understanding for these communities. Same thing with some of the Scottish heavy athletics I do, some of the organizations I'm involved in, some of the not-for-profits I support, things like this. And it's a notion of community and how do you find your place in a given community. And I think that's the important part of these kinds of conventions is when you find the community, because every con is different. Every con has its own little personality. And when you are on that side of the table, you know, you get to watch and have fun and do a lot of stuff. When you're on this side of the table, you're on. From the time you hit the ground to the time you leave, I do a lot of media. I do a lot of social media. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of video casts. I've lined up a bunch of them I'll be doing over the next couple of months while I'm here. So that doesn't shift very much for me because at the end of the day, but doing conventions like this, yeah, I'm me. I'm always going to push hard because that's me. And, you know, I have a lot of friends in the con community that I'm very grateful for that support me a lot and keep me going when I run at the crazy paces I do, because I don't recommend anybody do what I do. But for me, what's important is having a community that has welcomed me into it and being here to support it.
Yeah, the number of people who ask me like, it's a con entirely about dragons, and then I have to no, but
It's so true.
It's so true. It comes up a lot.
When you're geeky, it is so hard sometimes to explain that it's not just one thing, you know?
Yes. Rilo, do you feel like your experience doing events at a convention like Dragon Con has helped you in your professional life?
It certainly has helped me grow and learn. Last year was the first year I was on really more than the one panel that I've been hosting for about 4 Dragon Cons, which is Venture Trivia at 10 p.m. if anyone wants to come and play. But it's helped me come out of my shell more, and definitely it's helped me be more confident, just public speaking in general, which in turn helps, you know, my professional growth and my push forward, you know, on the shows and everything else.
I think that's so true. I think that sometimes just stepping up and trying something new, like Rilo, you coming here and getting more used to being in public speaking. For me, it was moderation and learning how to do a panel and not freak out every single time. So I think that's really a beautiful thing that does come from this.
Yeah, because I'm not used to talking seriously about anything. So.
Well, and if I can, I would say I'm very proud of that because, you know, we all have heard the old adage, and there's a lot of truth to this. Most people are more frightened of public speaking than they are of death.
Mm-hmm.
So taking this on and embracing that and using that for growth, I think is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as you progress in your digital media career through school, I think you'll find that
Oh, yeah.
doing like either events like this panel at Dragon or your Venture Brothers trivia will absolutely be something that comes in handy.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
vice versa, I hope.
Yeah, it's amazing the doors. Like, I just did an academic conference, and the reason they asked me was because I had moderated so many panels. So that was like, yay for the academic side.
Tyra, I wanted to ask you, what are the risks, do you think, of being in public and being so open about being your authentic self out there in the world?
I think for me, since I work for the state of Georgia, there's a lot of risk, and I do think about what I'm saying a lot of times when I'm on a panel. Last night I moderated spicy writing, and I thought, well, this is probably not what Kennesaw State wants me to do, but I've established myself enough in the space that I'm comfortable with saying that. Like, my department chair knows it's on my schedule, everybody does. But you have to be able to say, and keep in your mind, is this going to negatively impact what I'm doing? So there are some things, like I would not be on a panel talking about the state of education in this country, because that could cause a lot of problems for me. So I pick and choose, but I'm still sometimes dipping my foot in things that are a little bit off of the sidetrack. But I never do anything illegal, and I make sure of that. I make sure that I'm appropriately presented on camera. But yeah, it is something I think about. I think about because I'm coming up next 10 years, hopefully retiring, and I'm thinking about how freeing that will be in terms of my side hustle and my personal brand, and that I won't have to worry anymore about all the other things. But yeah, I always keep it in the back of my head, like, okay, I'm still Professor Tyra, is this going to be okay? And the answer most of the time is yes. But yeah, no, it definitely nickels at my brain.
Do your students know about your kind of Dragon Con life? And,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and so they all know I'm the geeky center of the universe, was how a lot of people on campus know me. We have, you know how there's MomoCon that came from Georgia Tech? We have AlCon at KSU, and I work on that. I work on Geek Week. So anything that's in the least bit geeky, they like come to me and say, hi, we've heard of you. And I'm like, oh, that's frightening. But I'm always honest with my students, because I met my husband at DragonCon, and that's usually the story I use to start that conversation. And they all know where I am this weekend. And I tell them, you can follow me on social media. There's not like Tyra Burton, the professor, that you just get this clean view of. You get all the messy, because I want them to know how to do the messy. So,
Jim, what do you think the risks are?
There are a lot, actually. So, I mean, this is a large part of my professional life is risk mitigation, risk management, the technologies, the things that are going on. I have worked a lot in generative AI spaces for about 17 years. That's a big part of what I've dealt with. You know, there's and I'll come back to why that's relevant in a minute, under-caffeinated. But the first big risk, because again, I have, one of the things is I've always been willing to take on those things that don't make me comfortable. In fact, quite often make me very uncomfortable. But if it's doing that to me, but I'm at least willing to help create a conversation for something, that's one of those things that I've always tried to be willing to do. There are things that either professionally I can't because of NDAs or contracts or things that I look and go, you know, ethically things for me. Again, if it's illegal, the answer is going to be hot no for a ton of reasons. But you know, I do have a particular ethos. I am very much a free speech advocate, and I very much like to help facilitate conversations, even if it's something I don't agree with. Because I believe if you're not willing to facilitate conversation and challenge your own belief systems, you're isolating yourself, right? I have a lot of issues with a lot of the echo chambers we get into these days. So that's one of the biggest risks, is that if you challenge an echo chamber in this current environment, you will get backlash. You know, even being old fat white guy, I get death threats from both sides.
yeah.
I've had people try to dox me. I've had, you know, things happen. That does not go well for those people.
And I think privacy, like, I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that, but when I think about privacy, you can find me. Like, my students have had packages delivered to my house when my cat passed away, and I was shocked, and I realized how thin that veil is, and I never worried about it.
So the other big risk we're looking at right now is the ability to take somebody, clone them, clone their likeness, clone their voice, clone
Yep.
all of these things and spoof it. So I'm going to say again, outside of this particular video, and I'd question it too, we'll never be able to entirely believe in something on video again.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a huge risk. I mean, if somebody Googles me, you're gonna find a ton of stuff.
That can be used to build those. I mean,
Absolutely.
and if you work in digital and you're going to have a digital facing front, have a conversation with those that are older in your family, that if they ever get a phone call that sounds exactly like you and you're in trouble and you need to go do X, Y, and Z in money, tell them no, hang up that phone and call and make sure it's really me. Because it's so easy. Any of us on this panel can be so easily doxxed that way. It's frightening.
And the third big thing that I have been saying for a very long time that a lot of people didn't understand or believe until they've seen the things that have happened, but they don't believe it will happen to them. The internet is forever. You know, if you're going to say something or do something, have an expectation you are being recorded at all times. Because in likelihood you are. We all carry around these nice little electronic devices that can be breached at any given time. We all, you know, if everybody knew how much of what we say and do now is seen and recorded and processed, yeah, I'm not going to, you know, I've been known to do the, hi, let me make everybody paranoid, and 5 minutes in, I've got a room full of people traumatized.
It's too early for trauma.
I'm going to be nice. So, I mean, those to me are the kind of the key risks. But the other thing I will say that has become true is, even for small personal things, you can wind up going viral and not intend it and all of a sudden become a public figure. Just because you took a picture of the right thing at the right time that everybody thinks is funny. And it could have been a cat video. It could be an event, something going on, and all of a sudden you go from being somebody that had 3 followers that were your mom, your dad, and a cousin to millions of people looking at everything you see and do, and all of a sudden you become the Haktua girl.
She made that her brand, though.
She did. She
Talk
took
about-
it and embraced it, but
Talk about personal branding.
and she could be looking at some charges now along the lines of cryptocurrency. But
I hadn't heard that one.
oh yeah, she got involved in some NFT and crypto stuff and did not know what she was getting into. That's my belief.
Hawk 2 is not a guest at Dragon Con this year, is she?
I have no idea.
Somebody look.
Riley, what are you thinking about in terms of risks for your personal brand?
I mean, I face risks every day just existing where I exist.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm from Iowa. They basically took away trans civil rights in February, and so I live in risk, which is sort of a blessing in a way because I am less afraid of what's out there, like on the internet, because I'm like, you know, could be worse. It could be right there. And if it just, it's easier to think of it in an abstract for me than it is to think of it as a real risk. I guess. I don't know. It's early.
I think you're very brave.
Yeah.
I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Fear is valid, right? I'm going to say something here that usually gets me in trouble.
Shocker.
I know. We're what, 20 minutes? Oh, 30
30
minutes in
minutes in.
before I really cause a problem. We have this notion, and we all want that notion of safety. Safety is an illusion. I work in risk every day. Much of what I see and deal with is when stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
You have very specific risks you deal with. They're not unique,
Yeah.
right? All of us have risks we look at every day. We all think we're safe every day. We are not. And often it is not the things we plan for. It's often not something intentional. It's often just shit happens. Wrong place, wrong time. But when you start doing things on this side of stuff, being in media, it creates huge opportunities. Huge opportunities. It also creates these new little pockets of risk.
Yeah.
And you have to put that belief in it that the opportunities and the benefits it gives you will help outweigh and balance against the risks.
So this being the digital media track, I wanted to ask about digital platforms. Tyra, I will start with you. What digital platforms have been the most helpful for you in building your personal brand, and what would you recommend to people who are looking to build up their brand now?
So think about your audience and choose, I always say, choose the platform that you're the most comfortable on, that your audience is also on. And you don't have to be on every platform. You don't have enough time, just trust me. Until you have somebody doing it for you, it's impossible to do all the things well. So for me, with what I do as a side hustle and as a personal brand, Facebook and Instagram, I should be on TikTok. But I'm not comfortable on video, even though I'm on video all the time. I'm not great at making videos. So I dip my toe into Reels and into TikToks, but I'm not there because it's not a space where I know I'm going to spend a lot of time. I'm just not. But I do spend a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram, and I still know my target audience is there, and they've been the most helpful for me. So think about what you're comfortable doing and where your audience is. Look for the intersection of those two and do the one that is the most applicable. So like lately I've been trying to get more on Blue Sky because there's a lot of digital creators that are on Blue Sky, but as a social media person, there's a lot of things that frustrate me about Blue Sky because they don't have good best practices for your image sizes and video sizes, and I have to resize everything, and it drives me nuts. So I'm dipping my toe in there, but it's still not my primary place. Instagram right now is where I'm in love. I love Mosseri. I say his name wrong. It's Mosseri. He is the head of Instagram, and he is super honest about how they're changing the algorithm, what you should be doing, what's the best practices for the platform, and it's the most open conversation I have seen from somebody running the platform about what works on the platform and dispelling myths and validating myths. So if you're...
I was just looking for Mosario.
Oh, it's okay. That's it. Mosseri. He's a delightful man, and I think he's a great example of personal brand and professional brand because his page is like followed by millions, and he still talks about his family, and he talks about their vacations and what he's doing with his sons, and I think he's a great representation of that if you want to see how you can combine those two. But for me, that's what I enjoy doing, so that's what I'm doing, and that's also, thank heavens, where my audience is. But I'm going to conquer Blue Sky one day, maybe. Not TikTok, though. My dog is conquering TikTok right now.
Jim, what are your thoughts on platforms?
So being the old tired cranky tech guy who does a lot of digital media, who is involved in a digital agency, who does a bunch of stuff, I have a hate-hate relationship with social media. I'm always very open about that, but to me it's a tool. So it really depends on what's the project. So when we started Continual, I started that with John Hartness, Gail Martin, Jean Marie Ward, Nancy Northcott, and Jeannie Adams. We started this because somewhere in about 2016, 2017, I was doing a lot of digital conferences for tech and business and stuff like that. And I had been talking about, I was like, we do all these cons with all the panels, and we only get to see these friends certain times a year. There's only, we get to see these people for Dragon. And I was like, we can do this virtually. And everybody kept going and saying, who's going to watch something virtually online?
Little
And-
did you know.
Oh, no, I knew. And I had a small media channel going that was about just business for creatives, right? That's what we were growing at the time and doing a bunch of stuff. And Gail pinged me one morning she was sitting at Disney right as the world locked down, and she goes, okay. She pings John and I, and she's like, okay, I did a thing. What do we do next? I did a thing. We had the name Continual, we had logos, and we had branding, because Gail does branding. I was like, great, I got a whole tech stack, let's just roll it. And we dropped our first 2 shows 2 weeks later, one of which was a hot off the press new releases show, and the other was the Panel Room, a topics show. We've had those going for more than 5 years. We've done a couple of thousand shows across everything, across all the tracks. We've got, I don't know, 13 or 14 tracks going at different times for different things. We do that on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We've talked about doing some stuff on some other platforms, and the part of my current frustration is because these platforms have locked down some of the tech, I can't use some of the tools that simplify getting stuff just even to post. That rant is over. I like Instagram for a lot of things. I think IG is a good technology. It's a good channel. It's tied into the Meta platform, so you can run your ads and run all the rest of that space. Right now, we're not seeing it being that effective in a lot of spaces. Don't care. Build it and just keep being consistent. Because the technology is going to change, trends are going to change. Just keep your stuff going. I have a number of different channels on X, which I've had going back a very long time. I'm not anywhere near as active on there as I used to be, but there are certain channels in which that's the place to go for some of the things that I do.
It's true. It's very topic driven.
It's very topic driven. There are some very community driven areas.
Yep.
Blue Sky, I'm in some of the writer groups, writer communities. I'm not anywhere near as active there. Part of this is just a time and bandwidth thing. Discord. I've been in and on Discord in different varieties for about, 10 years, give or take, something like that at this point.
I'm a gamer, been there forever.
Well, it's not only about the gamer. I started getting pulled into entrepreneurial communities in, I think, 2017 on Discord.
Yeah, well, the tech community, I think, embraced it.
Tech community came in and embraced it and was like, don't tell anyone.
It's true, actually.
I've done varieties of podcasting since 2000. I think we were doing digital shows before podcasting was a thing. To Tyra's point in my rambling, it depends on what do you want to do, is to understand the demographics, understand the technologies. I have a long list of issues with TikTok. It's an extraordinarily functional platform. It's also a very, we're on video, what word do I want to use? It is a very manipulative platform. All of them are. The algorithm is extraordinarily effective. You can blow up and do things. If you're going to use that platform or any of these platforms, do everything with intent.
Yes.
And if you find me in the bar, I will give you my TikTok rant.
Do we have a question from the chat?
No, actually, it's from me.
Oh,
Yes. So I have a question. What is your advice about rebranding after you've had to recreate yourself? Personally, I was a late bloomer. I discovered who I really was in my late 30s. And I had already been maybe 8-9 years into building my brand and kind of had to recreate it. And then had to wipe all of my socials due to digital stalking problem online. So I'm kind of, this past year has been trying to kind of restart that.
Such a hard place to be. Because you feel like I built all of this, and
Yeah.
there's like, you almost have to grieve that.
Yeah,
You know?
and therapy is great. Take care of yourself. So it's like going through that process personally, but also understanding that I kind of have to go back and start from the ground up, because I'm not the person I was 5 years ago. And, I've been pretty good about rebranding myself in a professional capacity with the contacts I have, but like on a social media, I had to wipe everything, and then I have a Blue Sky, and I do have a TikTok. It's mostly my cat, but just any advice for like how to kind of pick things back up from ground zero?
It's a beautiful thing to get to restart.
It's true. Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about, because like he said, it's on the internet, it's there forever. So it's still probably hid somewhere on the archive.
Yeah.
But the ability to go back and more intentionally, because particularly when we started on the internet, we weren't thinking about this,
No.
We didn't have this concept of, oh my God, they're going to read my tweet 20 years from now and say horrible things about me. Well, 20 years ago, I thought differently. But I think you have an amazing opportunity, and try to embrace that side of it and let the grief go with the old, because now you get to very intentionally be you and very authentically be who you found yourself to be. And that's beautiful. And I think even talking about that process in there is a beautiful thing as well. But I would tell you, think about the intention of what you want to set out there, because it's a beautiful opportunity. Try to think of it that way. I mean, it's exciting.
In a way, I always struggled a lot with social media in the past, and I'm finding more joy in it now because I can be more authentically myself compared to having to mask and be someone everyone expected me to be. So it is kind of an interesting opportunity when you phrase it like that.
Well, and Kevin is like Mr. Branding, so
Oh,
I know
hi.
he's being very quiet, but he has something to say, I'm sure.
Well, I think it goes back to what Tyra said about figuring out where your audience is and going there in terms of if you want to be intentional about your personal brand and what you want them to know about you.
What if you're multi-genre? Like you have a lot.
Define multi-genre. Do you mean like you write?
I'm a voice actor. I'm an illustrator. I read tarot. I do a lot of kind of things that don't necessarily connect.
But I feel like all those things are authentically you.
They
so
are.
They all sort of spring out from who you are. So I think that
Because
can
I've heard
be-
people say like, oh, you have to keep things very separate. Like your tarot should be on one, and your illustration should be on another, and your voice acting should be on another. It's like, what's your opinion about just putting it together? Just
So here's what I'm going to say is it depends on how you look at the business,
okay.
right? Because all of this makes perfect sense to me. I am schizophrenic in terms of all the different stuff that I do, apparently. And again, all of these are truly me. Different projects represent different facets. But since you're trying to do this professionally, and this is part of building your brand, your business, and running your ops, the question becomes, how are you structuring your business,
Okay.
right? So when you look and say, how I'm structuring my business, I could make an argument for keeping tarot separate from artwork and voice work. I would absolutely probably make the argument artwork and voice work needs to be in the same business unless there's a reason for business structuring to be different.
Okay.
But I could also say one can bring you the other. It depends on what you're trying to do with the business, where you're at with it, and what the intention is. Because tarot could bring you in specific customer bases. It could also detract from specific customer bases.
Yeah. So it's like,
So it's an intent. We're back to intent.
And there's an artistic side to tarot too, where you could maybe find some connections there.
absolutely.
I think that's the hardest one to put into that picture.
Yeah.
As somebody who does that too, so.
Right, because it also kind of ties into voice acting because I do that on YouTube and I record myself, so for me, it kind of all makes sense in my brain, but I just wanted your opinion on that, so thank you. Right.
No, it's an excellent question. I think it's one of the core points to this panel.
And I'm going to say something real quick. If you love our digital media dragon, you already love Cricket's artwork.
Hello.
Good morning. Still waking up.
We all are.
Okay, so my question is, I do two different things. So I have my personal brand, I guess would be, I don't know if I should keep it consistent. I do streaming with my friends with like PNG tubing and things like that, but then I'm also trying to be an author, and I have a separate account for that. Should I keep my voice consistent, or is it okay to kind of diverge based on which platform I'm on?
Author me is somewhat different from tech me, which is somewhat different from business me. The voice is going to be what's the story you want to tell and who do you want to attract.
I would say to keep that target audience in mind. So the gaming stream, you do, tell me the first part again.
PNG tubing, we do like reaction videos and commentary about like boys love. Like,
Okay, so are you using that, is that completely separate, or is that something that you're using to help drive to the other side?
I don't. We're kind of like building it up right now, so that's
Okay.
why I'm like, I should probably plan this now before I'm too deep.
And I'm going to ask one more question. The author you, I'm assuming you're going to be, that's you, versus the other,
Yeah.
there's a group of y'all, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, if that group blows up, do you want it to blow up on your author business?
Oh, true. The topics kind of are different because it's like sci-fi fantasy versus very fluffy, like out there things.
That's the
Very
questions
out
to
there.
ask.
Okay.
But I think you could get a lot of fluffy out there things that will connect to people who love sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
So,
And you can say, hey, if you love this, come, you tag both yous and everything, right? You can cross promote.
yeah.
But again, one of the things when you're talking about a group project versus individual things where you're building a career, you can cross promote those, but also then have your own independent channel. Personally, because of the business, how I recommend things is keep the two separate, because if something happens, let's say hypothetically something happened in your author career that you don't necessarily want to have that impact everybody else. If it's big, positive, and growth, fantastic. Everybody benefits. If it is something bad were to happen, or just something that they were not comfortable with, it doesn't have to be bad. It just can be a matter of comfort. Then you've got a different mechanism of control as to how to keep those separate. Again, risk mitigation me.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
When I am podcasting about culture or punk rock or skateboarding, my voice is different than when I'm speaking about health and biotech, for instance. And it's a hard needle to thread for me, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to people on this panel about. But I also feel like all of those disparate things like make up me. And so it's the easiest thing in the world, I think, to personally brand yourself about one thing. But I think a lot of us are like contain more multitudes than that.
Okay.
I think a lot of times what used to be our hobbies are now in the front, like things that we would have just done with our friends that were like fun, like Read Tiro or whatever. Now we're doing those online too. So it's weird how our hobbies have morphed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, like Tyra, I also work in USG. I work over at Georgia State University.
My alma mater.
Really?
Yes.
Same. So,
Oh, yay. Yay.
I'm 2011, so.
I'm 1992. No, 1990, sorry. I'm old. But move on now. Go on.
Get off my lawn.
I wanted to ask, with that aspect of trying to go into your personal branding aside from the professional, I'm into animation and wanting to, put more work on that, as well as maybe getting to voice acting, but also understanding that, USG or Georgia State may have some ideas of, how to navigate that. So just wanted to see or maybe get any advice from anyone on the panel about it.
First thing I'm going to tell you to do is make sure when you get jobs, fill out the form for not having conflict. Because cover your legal side with the school, and your regular job, even if you don't work for the USG, may have something that you have to tell them that you're doing something, make sure that that's covered so that you can always hold that piece of paper up and say, but you said. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to be quiet for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I will say is this, is look at your contracts when you're taking employment. Like, I've had to either severely have amended, or I have walked away from projects because of the IP clauses that were in some of the stuff, that literally would, if I had signed it, would literally say, okay, yeah, we're working on this project, but then anything that I write, develop, or do during this time that has nothing to do with this is also going to belong to you. No. And in the social media world and the digital media world, because all of that is intellectual property, right? You have to look at that as IP, and so you have to understand what your rights and responsibilities are. And so when you're doing that professional side of things, understand what the morals clauses are, what the, if you look at your employment contracts, there's a ton of stuff that goes in there along, I mean, frequently now we see very complex language around social media policies, around, again, this is something I have to navigate a lot, and I have often have to have modified for me to allow me to do this stuff, or I'll walk away from the project. So things to look at are, what do the contracts say? Because it can start stacking and getting very complex very quickly.
Would you say probably ask a lawyer too?
Yep. I just did an IP workshop on Friday with a couple of the attorneys that I do a bunch of stuff with here at Dragon. We did the IP panel last night for writers and stuff last night.
I was there.
Oh, great. Hopefully you got something out of it.
It was really awesome.
Obviously, Courtney, Dwayne, and I, it kind of becomes the IP improv show. But, Anthony Francis were there. I've known Anthony for years and years. So read your contracts. And if you don't understand it, and you probably really don't, because, even I have been in contracts for a long time, I can usually read and start going, what is that? And then that's when I hit my attorneys. So yes, it is worth it to spend a couple of $100 to potentially solve you a bunch of problems. Because right now, one of the things we have seen a lot of people is, all of a sudden you say something on social media, had nothing to do with your employer, may have nothing to do with anything there, but we're seeing a lot of the time people being censured, terminated, all sorts of things happen just because of social media and unintended consequences.
And Georgia State, in your staff or faculty handbook, will have that there. There's probably also a social media policy book. These are things that for any company you can look for. Look for those, and also consider if you want to use your same name professionally versus side hustle. Because that's a big question a lot of times when you're doing something like voice acting. Do you want it to be a separate facing where the two are not connected?
Oh, definitely. I do have an artist name.
Got it.
So, thank you.
Fantastic. We are nearing the end of our time, and I wanted to ask one final question of the panel. Ryler, I'm going to start with you this time. Do you have any advice for something like kind of a simple, quick win that someone either in the room or watching online can do to strengthen their personal brand?
What do you mean by win?
Something they can do that will help them.
Okay. Pretty much just know your audience, and don't be afraid to let your freak flag show just a little bit.
The main thing I would say is experiment. Give yourself permission to do the things that make you uncomfortable.
I agree that for me, I think let go of perfectionism, because we try so hard to be perfect and get things absolutely beautiful on social media or whatever you define as perfect. Let go of that and just make the post. Just take the leap. I think it's also about fear, but for me, it's letting go of perfectionism, because I do not like making videos but I'm trying to make videos, and every time I do, it's a win, and I just don't try to make them complicated. Just my dog eating his pup cup has been awesome.
Can I actually add something to that?
My dog would appreciate it.
Yeah, well, mine is really unhappy at camp right now. She loves day camp, but not
Not weekend camp.
No, the other thing I would kind of say to that is, just left. But no, the other thing I would say to that is, you got me off on dogs now.
I'm sorry.
Shiny objects and undercaffeinated.
ADD, sorry.
Yeah, it's kicking in this morning. Okay, it's gone.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for talking about personal and professional branding with me. Tyra, where can people find you and your stuff, and where can people find you at DragonCon as we go into our last couple days?
I know. I just want to say they gave us badges that only 18-year-olds can read because my progressives are not that great. So I'm Tyra Burton, and shockingly, you can find me at tyraburton.com. I will say, get a website with your name, please, for the love of all that's holy. And I will be at 1 o'clock on the film track. I am super excited about this, talking about social media. And then I'm back here at 8:30 talking about awesome women in digital media. And go out there and create.
The easiest way to find me, and at least a lot of the stuff I'm involved in, is you can either Google James P. Nettles. You'll find a number of them, but I'm going to show up pretty rapidly. Or go to jamespnettles.com. From there, you can get to Continual, a lot of the stuff we can do. You can get to Author Essentials, which is one of my workshop companies. Today, I will be doing the Turning Passion into Profit, growing small business. This is a variation off the Side Hustles workshop. This is a couple of pieces out of a workshop series we teach, and that we're bringing back this fall, which there's two of them. One of which is for, I'm thinking about wanting to get into a side hustle or freelancing, or I'm thinking about going into business. The other one is much more of I'm in business, I'm trying to get funding, I'm trying to grow, I'm in trouble. That one is a 2-day that then leads into a 90-day program and business planning and a bunch of stuff like that. So a bunch of that will all start being available and will start showing up again. We're launching a new platform for that over the next month. If you're interested in some of the game or gamification technology, event stuff, digital scavenger hunts, some other products that are coming out, you can go to myriadtechnologylabs.com.
Rilo.
You can find me at linktree/Rilo Ward. Tonight is my last panel. It's at 10 p.m. in Galleria 1, and it is Venture Trivia. We'll be doing trivia about the Venture Brothers. Even if you don't know the Venture Brothers, you can come and hang out with us. You don't have to play, and there may be some incentives to donate to our charity for this year if you do come.
And I will say that beststuffpod.com is where you can find my podcast, The Best Stuff in the World, where myself and other awesome people discuss various bits of culture, media, music. Much to Tyra Burton's chagrin, we have never done a Taylor Swift episode.
Darn it, but when you do, I'm there.
And at 4 p.m. today, I will be in the American Sci-Fi Classics room moderating a panel called Hollywood at the Arcade, Video Games in 80s Movies. And that's going to be a real fun time.
That'll be exciting.
I also want to talk about the DragonCon charity, NAMI, Georgia. DragonCon is committed to helping the community of NAMI who help with mental health. They are raising funds through donations, and they're matching funds up to, this says $125,000, but I heard on DragonCon TV this morning that it's they're matching funds up to $150,000. There's a QR code here at the table, and you can also find information online at dragoncon.com. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, panelists. This has been fantastic. Enjoy the rest of your con.
Definitely.
Yay. Thanks for waking up with us.
Yes.
And so this will also be on YouTube.
Yes.
So that's, and a lot of times, especially early morning panels where none of us are awake, get a lot of play on YouTube as well. So know that your morning will have benefits many days from now and years from now.
Awesome.
I'm so excited about your arcade.